Also, if you want to take advantage of the closed captioning, there are seats over there, and you'll be able to see on the screen there. I'll introduce the people who are sitting up front so you know who they are. Tom McEnany, KP Law, Town Council. Corinne Kale, Town Clerk. Joe Demelowitz, Town Manager. Wendy Markowitz, Finance Director. Bill Olson, Select Board Chair. Bill Wilson, Select Board. Tom Myers, Select Board. Ben Galuza, Select Board. John McGrath, FinCom Chair. Alex Rendell, FinCom. Chris Woolston, FinCom. Parenthetically, I'll note we're looking for 2 members for the Finance Committee, and I'm itching to appoint somebody. So see John if you're interested. Select Board member Rosemary Kennedy is unfortunately unable to be here this evening, but we do have a taped statement from her to share later in the evening. I've asked non-resident town officials and those assisting the Select Board or Finance Committee to be present here so they may be available to answer questions. Members of the press and video crew have also been allowed to be present. I hope you brought a copy of the warrant. If you did not, there are extra copies out front. The agenda for the meeting is the warrant. It was prepared by the Select Board. To bring an agenda item before the meeting, I'll recognize a member of the sponsoring board, committee, or individual so they can make a motion. If the motion is seconded, I will recognize the proponent to speak to you about it. Once they are done, I will open discussion up to the public. To ensure that we have an orderly meeting, if you wish to speak, you must first ask me to recognize you. To save time, I ask that you already be standing at the microphone, which is right here in front of me. Once you're recognized, please state your name and street address. We will use the same rules at today's town meeting that we use at every town meeting. You'll have 3 minutes to make comments or ask questions about the motion. When your 3 minutes is almost up, I'll let you know so that you can wrap up your comments. If you continue to speak once your time has elapsed, my obligation to maintain a fair and efficient meeting requires that I move on to the next speaker. Your comments and questions must be within the 4 corners of the motion. Please remember that we are in a legislative session for the town of Hamilton. While we can all agree that spirited debate is welcome, we recognize that being cordial and respectful is a priority for the efficiency of the meeting, and that every person who rises to debate a motion has an equal right to be heard. As such, we expect that at this meeting, like at all town meetings, people will refrain from making remarks of a personal nature about any town or school officials or any person who is in favor of or against the motion, and just comment on the merits. Again, to ensure that the meeting is run efficiently, any comments or questions must be directed to the moderator rather than any individual or town official. If I deem it appropriate, I may then ask the person making the motion or another town official to respond through me to the question. Please, no applause, cheering, booing, or any other conduct that will disrupt or delay the meeting. All motions to amend must be submitted to the town clerk in writing. If you need assistance in framing a motion to amend, town council will provide you with some assistance. No more than 1 amendment may be pending at the same time. A vote is first taken on the amendment and then on the main motion. As I mentioned, when a vote is taken, we'll be using the electronic voting clickers. Joe Demelowitz will demonstrate the use of the clickers in just a moment. In the unlikely event that we have trouble with the technology, we will revert to the use of voter cards and I'll ask you to raise your voter cards, and I will decide visually whether there's the necessary majority or two-thirds vote. If I am in doubt or 7 voters question the vote immediately after I declare the outcome, I will have the vote counted by the tellers. Now allow Joe Demelowitz to demonstrate the use of the clickers.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? Thank you for being here tonight. Just got to find my space here. I can't hide my space. So there's an A button and a B button. Let me see that. The green 1A button is for yes. The red 2B button is for no. We're going to try a test question. Has everybody finished their Christmas shopping? Their holiday shopping. Apologies. Has everybody finished their holiday shopping? Yes or no? You can start the voting now.
Okay, time is up.
All right, try to vote again now.
Could you just make an announcement that anyone that's parked in the fire lane directly in front of the high school has to move their car?
Yeah, sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
If anyone is parked in the fire lane outside the school, you please need to move your car to a recognized parking space. Thank you.
say okay when you vote.
So we're okay?
Okay. Okay, I guess, does everybody feel like you saw your clicker? When you press the button, it should say okay in the little screen, so if everybody's okay, then we should be able to move forward. Okay. What was the result, Lori?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, you were on.
No, it's time to vote.
Hey, everyone. So I'm going to ask everybody, if you have your cell phone on and the Wi-Fi is on and you've been in this building before, you're probably automatically linked into the Wi-Fi in the building. And I just don't think the system is prepared to handle 300 plus people and try to produce our voting results. So if you could take out your cell phone, turn off your Wi-Fi, that might help the Wi-Fi move a little faster and we can get this out. Because it's recording all your clickers, it just won't tell us what the result is.
But Joe, why don't you get a different, get you a different Wi-Fi? Faster Wi-Fi. So we need to get some counters. Do you have anybody in the lined up to do that?
Yeah.
The red thing. Want to get right over here and make a call?
It's your time. If you wanna switch the voting method, we can.
So what's what, I take it the issue isn't. Corinne, so
We didn't bring them in this time, Lori's running it.
what, is this an issue?
Manage it again this time. Already done that 3 times.
Is this an, yeah, Joe?
Make sure that they're ready. The first question is one notebook that's going to tell what you can say. No, that's just back switching to regular voting. So you want to make comment on that and let people know that we're getting the tellers ready to go. Yeah. If they don't want
Okay, thank you for your patience. We're going to go back to prehistoric times and use our red cards if needed. Okay, we're getting the tellers ready, and I think we can start with going through the warrant. And Article 2025-1211, reports. This article was included as a placeholder on the warrant. I've been informed that there are no reports of town officers or committees that will be presented this evening, and as a result, there is no motion on this article. Article 2025-12-1-2, article for consent motion. Moderator, oh, that's me. Hello. This article was included as a placeholder on the warrant. Given that the warrant only includes 5 articles, many of which either require a supermajority vote or may garner some debate, there is no consent agenda this evening, and we will address each article in the order in which it appears in the warrant. Article 2025-12-2-1, prior year bills. Okay. The Select Board recommends favorable action. The Finance and Advisory Committee recommends favorable action. I recognize Chris Wolfton of the Finance and Advisory Committee.
I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $26,387.56 from free cash for the purpose of funding the following unpaid bills incurred in prior fiscal years. KP Law on May 27th, 2025 for $10,536.81. Greenbacker Renewable Energy Corp. on September 29th, 2025 for $14,850.75. And CAI Technologies on April 30th, 2025 for $1,000. Is there a second?
Any discussion? Okay, this requires a 9/10 vote. If it's a unanimous vote, I'll take a voice vote first. If it's a unanimous vote, we're done. If someone is a no, then we'll have a counted vote at that point. So, understood? Are there any questions or discussion? If not, I'll first ask for a voice vote. All those in favor, remember 9/10, unanimous. Did I say unanimous? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nay. The article passes, and I so declare. No one has to leave town. It passed unanimously, and I so declare. Article 2025-12-2-2, Community Preservation Town Hall Project. The Select Board recommend favorable action 3-0. The CPC recommended favorable action 5-0. And the Finance Committee 3-0 recommends favorable action. I recognize Sean Farrell of the Community Preservation Committee.
Good evening, everyone. I move that the town vote to appropriate Article 2025-12 2-2 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Discussion? Mr. Farrell? Okay, if there's a question, could you please come up to the microphone and identify yourself?
Right-click and say mirror.
Stephen Duvall, 4 Carriage Lane. I just want to point out that in the
Could you use the microphone?
Stephen Newbold, 4 Carriage Lane. Just wanted to point out that in the here the article it says 2023 and not 2025. It's wrong year.
Okay, Article 2025.
Correct, in 23.
So, does someone want to give me the correct citation?
Year 2025.
Yeah, didn't it? Okay, if
On our version, on the script, it says 2025, but on the printed version that folks have in the audience, it says 2023.
okay,
I don't know what's
to
printed
correct
online.
the article number, the correct article number is 2025/12-2-2. Any other questions or comments? Anything you want to say on this, Mr. Farrell? Okay, if not, we'll go to a vote. I'll take a voice vote. This only requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. I'll take that as an indeterminate. Okay. Article 2025/12. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm losing it. The article passes unanimously, and I so declare. Article 2025/12, 3-1, extension of lease cell tower. Select Board recommended 3-0 favorable action. Finance and Advisory Committee recommended favorable action 3-0. I recognize Ben Galuza of the Select Board.
I move that the town vote to approve Article 2025/12, 3-1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Galuza? Or anyone? Okay, just for clarification, could you just read the motion again, Mr. Galuza?
I move that the town vote to approve Article 2025/12, 3-1 as printed in the warrant.
Very good. Second?
Second.
Okay.
Good evening. This article seeks to allow the select board board to, sorry, this article seeks to allow the select board to negotiate terms for the cell tower. God, I hate this thing. We want to allow the select board to negotiate terms to sell the lease out rather than take the annual payments. The annual payments equal about $40,000 a year, give or take. They go up a little bit incrementally. We had recently had a couple of companies interested in buying the lease out from its term, but they want to buy it out for at least 30 years. The original article that allowed the select board to negotiate the original lease only allowed them to negotiate a 30-year term. So since we've already had the lease running for 5 years, we can't sell the lease for a 30-year term until you have an extension. So that was what they're seeking to do. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions or comments?
Hi, Deb Safford, Maple Street. I just had a question. It's not necessarily about this extension, but it's about the cell towers. Is there any discussion in there about the 5G, 6G, 4G that's sort of tied into the lease there, where we have any impact if they keep raising it? And just there's a lot of concern about radiation. So is any aspect of that as part of the lease agreement do we have control of?
Yeah, Deb, I think that this is just the right to the property. We can't control what they put on the property or what RF radio frequency they use. So they can, the 4G, the 5G, et cetera. They would come through the normal zoning process and permitting process, and I think that would be the opportunity if people had health concerns.
So that's regardless of who's owning
That's
the lease
regardless
of
of who
it.
owns it. That
They're
would
still
not
going to be
be-
able to come. So we would, as a
Yeah.
town, still be able to have input if they were
We
going to
definitely would have
put
input.
something
We
that's going to give us all cancer.
We
Okay.
can't prohibit them from bringing it to the
Yeah.
town, but once it's here, we can
They have a
that
say in it.
discussion.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I think we're ready for a vote. This requires a majority vote. So I'll allow a minute. Well, no, I'll go a voice vote to start. So Article 2025 3-1. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article passes unanimously, and I so declare. Article 2025/12, 3-2, authorization to convey easement to National Grid, 577 Bay Road. That's Town Hall. Board of Selectmen recommended favorable action 3-0. Finance Committee recommended favorable action 3-0. I recognize Bill Wilson of the Select Board.
I move that the town vote to approve Article 2025-12, 3-2 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, just briefly, as most people are aware, there are renovations going on in the town hall. So this article seeks authorization for an easement to National Grid to enable them to install a conduit for the purposes of upgrading the electrical system.
Any questions or comments? This requires a majority vote. I'll first take a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article passes unanimously, and I so declare. Okay. Article 2025/12, 4-1, zoning bylaw amendment, Browns Hill Overlay District. The Select Board will make a recommendation on the floor of town meeting. Is the Select Board?
Marty Crouch makes a motion's going to be made by.
Okay, I'm just getting the the vote.
You want the recommendation?
Yeah, just,
Thank you, Bill. Due to timing for a meeting for select board, we were trying to get everybody together because it's an important vote. And due to unfortunate situations beyond our control, we could not get everyone together. Rosemary is in the hospital right now, recovering from a successful ankle surgery today, and she's watching actually tonight. And we know she's, from her recorded video, you heard she has recommended favorable action. We're going to do an informal motion right now to show our support of this motion. So I'm looking for a motion to recommend favorable action for Article 2025-12-4-1.
Recommend favorable action for Article 2025-12-4-1.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, thank you, Bill.
thank you, okay. Thank you. The Finance and Advisory Committee, 3-0 recommends favorable action. The Planning Board, 6-0 recommends favorable action. I recognize Marnie Crouch of the Planning Board.
Good evening, everyone. I move that the town vote to approve Article 2025-12-4-1 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a Planning Board report?
We have a presentation.
Okay, but there's an official, for the record, there's you held a hearing and there's an official report. It's a requirement of the zoning change.
Planning board is presenting orally their recommendation.
Okay, this is, I'm sorry. You had a public hearing
Oh, yes,
and you voted 6-0 in favor of the
Yes,
article. Okay,
absolutely.
I think we've met the requirements of the report. The floor is yours.
Okay. I would like to preface my remarks by thanking all those who participated in the process of crafting the Browns Hill Overlay District. Just a very brief history. The process began in 2018 with a task force, which eventually became a working group. It involved the Master Plan Steering Committee and eventually the Planning Board in 2022. Along the way, the seminary and the Select Board negotiated and executed a development agreement that acts in concert with the zoning bylaw before you. But I'd like to thank the following people: David Smith, Jack Lawrence, Rick Mitchell, Dr. Scott Sundquist, Dr. Ken Barnes, Attorney Merwin Walters, my colleagues on the Planning Board, especially Emil Dahlquist, members of the Select Board, especially Rosie Kennedy and Joe Domilovitz. And I'd also like to thank members of the public who attended our Planning Board meetings and provided constructive criticism. The comments and concerns expressed by you during our public hearing process contributed to the zoning board, the zoning bylaw before you today. So why are we here? The Planning Board initially recognized that the campus is special, having been identified in the 2005 Hamilton Reconnaissance Report, prepared as a part of the Essex County Heritage Landscape Inventory Program. The Planning Board also recognized two things: that although the seminary at this time intends to remain on the campus and sell only the apartments, change to the campus is inevitable and should be managed through a well-crafted zoning bylaw to avoid piecemeal development in the future. The Planning Board also recognized the potential consequences of unregulated change. These could include sale of the apartments without any affordable units, a large-scale 40B development, or a dense subdivision with many large single-family homes, which an outside consultant deemed least beneficial to the town and the seminary. In those circumstances, what would be lost? The Planning Board noted the mature trees on the campus, the heritage landscape identified in the Browns Hill Overlay District, the legacy buildings, including the Retreat House and Pilgrim Hall, which are the former Mandel Estate House and stables, scenic vistas, natural woodland buffers, and meaningful public access to protected civic space. I want to note that in the case of a 40B development, local regulations such as the Groundwater Protection Overlay District and the Stormwater Management Bylaw could be waived by the ZBA. To provide guardrails against those unpalatable scenarios, the Planning Board drafted the overlay district to require compliance with the Stormwater Management Bylaw, which was recently amended to avoid the adverse consequences of the development on Bridge Street with its unsightly and enormous retaining walls, as well as the substantive provisions of the Groundwater Protection Overlay District. In addition, and I can't by any stretch go through all the provisions of the zoning bylaw, I just want to hit on the highlights. It includes a special design process which requires environmentally sensitive site design for any new development, a process intended to promote the integration of any new construction into the existing landscape. It includes tables, which Emil Dahlquist will review after my presentation, but those tables have permitting requirements by right or special permit, uses, including residential uses and limited commercial uses, and the tables also contain information as to the size and scale of buildings and the density that can be obtained on the campus. The bylaw also has general and specific development standards. General requirements promote low-impact development. The 11 specific requirements that must be satisfied for a special permit govern, among other things, buffer areas, open space, lighting, thoroughfares, parking, sidewalks, signage, tree preservation and landscaping, and retaining walls. And finally, there are 12 detailed findings that the Planning Board must make before the issuance of a special permit. So I can assure you that this overlay district was very thoughtfully drafted, and it's designed to protect the community from any untoward development. And now I'll turn the mic over to Emil, and he will go through some of the specific details of how the bylaw protects the site and limits the amount of development permitted.
Good evening. This presentation focuses on the rationale behind the Browns Hill.
Just if you just identify yourself for the record. Thanks.
Emil Dahlquist, Planning Board. This presentation focuses on the rationale behind the Browns Hill Overlay District initiative, including the framework and components. Marnie touched on one half of it, which was the body of the zoning bylaw. I'm going to be touching on the metrics and the tables and so forth. But the framework and components and the benefits to the community. Answers to key questions noted on this slide, for example, frame the scope and objectives guiding the project, what we aim to achieve, elements to be preserved or altered, types of land uses proposed, their locations, and the scale of development anticipated. Next slide, please. In addition to the background and history of discussions between the seminary and the town previously mentioned, the Hamilton 2024 Master Plan encourages balancing the underlying reasons of community needs, environmental concerns, and development pressures. When taken together, these reasons necessitate a thoughtful approach to broadly managing Browns Hill District. This challenge is more than an opportunity for the town of Hamilton. It's a responsibility to get it right. Next slide. At a January 2023 workshop, the Planning Board adopted 2 strategies to guide the Browns Hill District draft. Number 1, consider the entire site comprehensively to prevent fragmented or piecemeal development. Number 2, prepare a set of guiding principles to balance fiscal responsibility, social benefits, and environmental stewardship, creating key outcomes including increasing town revenues, promoting flexible housing options, and protecting natural and cultural resources. Next. The priority was to identify and delineate aspects or elements of the specific site that are valued and should be preserved. Those include the heritage landscape, more about that later, historically and culturally significant buildings, scenic vistas, mature trees, steep slopes, natural buffers providing privacy and separation, public access to the site. Recognition of important resources such as these early on is crucial for maintaining the structural and ecological integrity of the entire campus as the property transitions over time. Next. The general context of the Browns Hill District is shown here. Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, Seminary. Sorry, Mark. Accordion slip. The seminary is a 102-acre property with a perimeter delineated in yellow. North is to the right. Key streets of Essex, Woodbury, Bridge Streets frame the site on 3 sides from left to right. The 4th side, top of the slide, are residential properties fronting on Miles River Road. Abutting zones are 1/2 acre, 1 acre, and 2 acre residential, as noted. Browns Hill, the highest ground in Essex County, occupies the portion of the property on the upper right side of the slide. Context is essentially for assessing development constraints and opportunities. Next slide. The slide references all existing buildings and their locations. The legacy buildings are noted in the red rings. They're historically and culturally significant. The educational buildings are in white circles. The administrative hub, the library, academic center, and chapel. The apartments are in blue ovals, formerly student housing, and the wastewater treatment plant, green, sole site for wastewater treatment facility. Legacy buildings were built around 1900 as part of the Mandel estate, as Marnie mentioned, and include what is now known as the Retreat House, which was the original mansion, and Pilgrim Hall, which was the stables, with the gatehouse adjacent to the Bridge Street exit. Most of the educational buildings and all the apartments and the wastewater treatment were built by Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary between 35 and 50 years ago. Next slide. The focus of this slide are areas to be excluded from the future development to protect sensitive environmental and cultural features. The areas outlined in red are designated as protected or no-build areas and include the wetlands along Essex Street on the left, the heritage landscape on the central campus, steep slopes on the right, primarily along Bridge Street. And careful delineation of these important areas ensures that development respects the natural constraints on the land and preserves important site characteristics. Note that approximately 50% of the property is protected from future development. Next slide. What remains then, after excluding those no-build areas, are parts of sub-districts available for possible development, specifically the upper campus summit at 20+ acres and the middle campus athletic fields at about 18 acres. They're shown in yellow. These possible development areas where growth can occur within the overall site framework. Next slide. There are 5 tables within this code or bylaw with data that define the rules and standards that regulate development on this site. That information includes uses and building types, building dimensions, permitting requirements, development density, and other key factors, better ensuring orderly and appropriate growth within the sub-districts and the Browns Hill district as a whole. Next slide. Every bylaw needs a zoning map, and this is the Browns Hill Overlay District zoning map. It's a mosaic of 5 sub-districts. The upper campus is shown in brown or tan on the right, 27 acres plus or minus, with educational buildings and gatehouse. The middle campus, MC, is in blue. That's roughly 20 acres with legacy buildings and wastewater treatment. Lower campus 1 and 2 are 2 separate sites in purple, 12 acres total with existing apartments. The heritage landscape is in light green. That's 15 acres conservation area. And NZ is darker green, 28 acres predominantly wetlands. Underground reservoirs are noted on the top property, on the town property, in the white space on the upper campus. That's roughly 1.5 acres. Each subdistrict is fully surveyed by a licensed surveyor, and all land that is developable is calculated to inform the code. Okay, table number 1. 5 tables are printed in the warrant for your convenience. If you'd like to look at them, I realize this is not legible from where you're seating, but I'll do a summary of what's on each page. Table 1 supplements the overlay district zoning map and lists the 5 subdistricts along with descriptions and summaries of the requirements for development and permitting in each subdistrict. The takeaway then, it identifies land areas that are developable and those that are not. It summarizes development permitting requirements that are either by right, which would include the apartments and legacy building, reuse or renovation, special permits for existing building expansions or rebuilding, and special permit for all new development and all other activities. Next slide, 2. Table 2 assigns particular uses to specific subdistricts with their respective permitting requirements. There are 4 general categories of uses. This is a subject that we spent a lot of time on the planning board, in a lot of conversations internally and with various abutters and so forth. Residential, commercial, community facilities, and accessory uses. The residential will include the existing multifamily, the townhouses, senior housing. The commercial would include legacy buildings, and there are 2 that are really being discussed here, the Retreat House and the Pilgrim Hall, and a long-term care facility. Community facilities would be perhaps a neighborhood center and limited business. Accessory uses would be accessory to a primary. It would not be a freestanding building allowed. So permitted uses are allowed either by right or by a special permit. Uses not listed in this table are not allowed. The takeaways then, restricts development options to predominantly residential, requires all development to be primarily by special permit. Next slide. Table 3 is building types derived from uses and are listed on the chart with specific characteristics. The types include the existing legacy buildings, historic, the multifamily, existing apartments, townhouse, 3 to 6 dwelling units per building attached horizontally, senior housing, 2 dwelling units attached horizontally, long-term care facilities like the residence at Riverbend in Ipswich. And a takeaway, organizing by building types facilitates dimensional regulations and by extension, measuring density. Next slide. Thank you. Dimensional regulations is what's on table 4, guiding the building types. And what that does is regulate height, footprint, floor area, spacing between buildings, supplemented by density standards in table 4. Table 4 shapes the physical built environment. Maximum footprint, floor area per building are derived from building blocks of realistic dwelling unit sizes, roughly 2,500 square feet per unit, and numbers of units. So the takeaway on this table would be, if the middle, I'll give you an example of what a build out could be. These would be kind of the 2 ends of what could happen. If the middle campus adds 14 or 18 senior houses, the upper campus could then have up to 33 townhouses or more senior housing, either one. If the upper campus has a long-term care, roughly 75,000 square feet, then the middle campus can have no new development. And the upper campus could still have 21 townhouses. In other words, there's a little bit of flexibility between the middle campus and the upper campus, depending on what Gordon Conwell would like to have done. But in both cases, they're capped. And we'll get into what that means a little bit later. So the dimensional regulations then manage scale and massing of all new construction. Table 5. This one's a bit complicated. I'm going to try to go through it, so bear with me. But density quantifies amounts of development in relation to land area. It's measured by floor area ratio, FAR, addressed in the next slide. Table 5 assigns each subdistrict a developable area with a maximum building floor area and a resulting FAR that is a not to exceed number. This is a very controlling factor. Lower Campus 1 and 2 already have existing apartments. They are known floor areas, and the lot sizes are known there, so that's a given. The FAR is fixed at that point as a maximum lower campus density by right. Any extensions to those buildings to include like an elevator would be by special permit up to 10%. Middle campus and upper campus have flexible ranges of building floor areas and FARs, as I noted above, that are subject to special permits. So the takeaway here, if you look at the red note on the bottom of the table, the aggregate of existing and new building floor area for the entire property is capped at 400,000 square feet. 400,000 square feet is below the actual Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary square footage now. Floor area ratio on the next slide. Thank you. This simple graphic shows two buildings on a typical lot. The building floor areas are colored in gray and blue, and the lot lines are shown in red. The concept of floor area ratio is the sum of all the floor areas in all the buildings divided by the total lot area. In other words, you have a 3.5 on the left, you have a 3.5 story building, 3 gray floors, 1 blue floor, and on the building on the right, you have 2 floors, 2 gray floors, and 1 blue floor on a half story. So you would add the total, which would be 6 stories. You take the total area of all of those floors and divide it by the area of the red perimeter, the lot. That's the FAR. It's not a design tool, but it is a great measuring tool. FARs are a measure of density when used with other dimensional standards such as building height, footprint, floor area, and spacing. Developments are predictable in terms of scale, massing, and coverage. Next slide. This slide contrasts Hamilton's current residential zoning numbers with Brown Hills District showing the FARs. The chart on the left shows FARs typical in Hamilton for each zone. All of us I know are familiar with these. The RA, for example, 2-acre lot, which is the top row in the left-hand box chart. 2-acre lot would have an FAR of 0.05. R1B, which is 1-acre lot, would have an FAR of 0.10. R1A, 1/2 acre lot, would have an FAR of 0.15. Now, I'm telling you this because I want to compare now the Browns Hill Overlay District. If you look on the right-hand chart, again, look at the circles and the ovals that you see for that have been highlighted there. The upper campus approximates 1/2 acre to 1 acre zoning. The middle campus approximates 2 acre to 1 acre zoning. That's in terms of the amount of square footage and build out for those areas. So I think you can see this is not an overwhelming development that we're proposing here. And it's all being managed pretty carefully. So what you see, what you will see in form and density on the seminary site will be like what you already see in Hamilton. Slide. So what are the achievements in the bylaws, the Browns Hill Overlay District zoning bylaw? It preserves the heritage landscape, historic buildings, scenic vistas, mature trees, buffers for privacy, and steep slopes from development. It provides diverse housing options, balanced development across sub-districts, and caps the total site development to existing levels. Commercial development is strictly limited to reuse of legacy buildings, ensuring compatibility with the site's character. At this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mark Connors, who is Hamilton's Planning Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Emil. I'm Mark Connors, the Planning Director for Hamilton. I'm going to speak briefly about the Groundwater Protection Overlay District, which is it's an overlay district. It's superimposed over the underlying zoning districts in Hamilton. It's a fairly large district, applies to approximately 1/3 of the land area in Hamilton, and it applies to portions of the Gordon Conwell campus. as I said, the purpose of the overlay district is to better protect groundwater sources. So there are some requirements under the overlay district that speak to things like fertilizer applications and storage of salts, other things that might pose threats to groundwater sources. There were 2 changes this year to the groundwater protection overlay district. In April at town meeting, the town approved, the planning board recommended that the town adopt some residential density limits within the overlay district. And the planning board proposes as an interim measure because they were concerned with septic contamination of groundwater sources, which unfortunately is a fairly common source of groundwater contamination. Once your septic system is installed, it is regulated, the town reviews that process. But what typically happens, unfortunately, is the systems can degrade over time. They are not monitored by anyone at the town level, and they can be a significant source of groundwater contamination here in Massachusetts, really across New England. So the planning board proposed that, the town voted to approve that change in April. And also in July, the town voted to rezone the town center and to bring the town in compliance with the state's 3A multifamily housing requirements. The town chose a portion of Asbury Street to apply an overlay district to meet those requirements where there's already a fair amount of dense housing. But that was also within the overlay district. We had to change sort of how the overlay district applied to those properties. And that's similar to what the planning board's proposing for the Gordon Conwell campus. Next slide. Why does the planning board have to change how the overlay district applies to the campus? The overlay district for the groundwater protection district requires only 1 dwelling unit per 80,000 square feet. That's approximately 2 acres. So that the planning board really wanted to avoid that. We didn't want to see the kind of development you see along Bridge Street at the campus. The whole purpose of the zoning here in front of you tonight is to preserve as much of that campus environment as possible to incentivize the preservation of buildings like this, the historic buildings on campus. So really just that requirement wasn't at all consistent with the nature of the zoning proposed. The select board in a few minutes is going to talk about the development agreement that the town has signed with Gordon Conwell. That requires any new development on the campus to be served by the wastewater treatment system on campus. That's a huge thing from a groundwater protection perspective because wastewater treatment systems are regulated by the state and they're constantly monitored. So there's really no potential for contamination, certainly not like you'd see from septic systems, that will happen. So the development agreement guarantees that existing development, any future development hook into that system. So there's really no potential for septic contamination. If we were to keep the groundwater protection overlay district without any changes, it wouldn't allow for the reuse of the historic buildings. One of the things the planning board really wanted to do was provide for opportunities for these buildings to be reused and incentivize the preservation of these buildings so that it allows for certain residential uses to be in them, a mix of uses. And importantly, the planning board is not proposing to eliminate the groundwater protection overlay district. It will stay on the campus. And they've actually methodically gone through that bylaw and applied any provision that they could to the Gordon Conwell campus. Next slide. So just briefly, what will be controlled under the changes proposed tonight? The groundwater protection overlay limits. If you're going to propose any development with a lot of impervious surface coverage, there can be stormwater runoff that might contaminate groundwater sources. So there's a special permit process you have to go through. That will remain in effect. Marnie spoke about the stormwater permit, which is a relatively new permit that the town now requires. Any development on campus would be required to go through a stormwater permitting process with the planning board. It'll continue to regulate things like uncovered salts, fertilizer, these kind of things that can commonly contaminate groundwater sources. And importantly, because of that development agreement with the Gordon Conwell, there can never be septic on this property. So we've sort of eliminated the potential for septic contamination. So our view is viewing all of these things in totality provides a higher level of protection for groundwater resources than anything on the books in the zoning currently. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Bill Olson, who is the chair of the select board, who will discuss the development agreement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. A few brief comments from the perspective of the select board. While we worked on a parallel process to create and negotiate and approve a development agreement with Gordon Conwell in chorus, and it works in chorus with the proposed zoning bylaw tonight. We're going to let Rosie talk about it. We've recorded some messages from her, but before I get to that, I just want to once again say we're really proud of what we did here, and I think the town should be proud of what we did here. We really learned from previous obstacles and really built consensus on this proposal. We work with all town boards and committees. We work with all town employees. We work with the public, the abutters, Gordon Conwell, and we really negotiated hard with them. We listened to everyone. We asked for almost everything that was suggested. On my mic, there we go. So I just want to, so as Rosie's going to speak in her words on a recorded message, I just want to make sure people are confident that we were very firm in our priorities, but we were fair in our process, and we always focus on the greater good of Hamilton. So we'll let Rosie speak.
Technical difficulties.
Kennedy. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be there with you tonight, but I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes talking about the development agreement. I have been part of this process for the last year and a half, and the committee has worked diligently with Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary to make sure that this development agreement is fair to both parties, provides the town with things that residents need, and allows for orderly development. Specifically, this development, this sale of the apartments to a private developer will give Hamilton much needed affordable housing. It'll bring us up to the 10% mark and take the pressure off of others to continue to build. It protects the land and walking trails, and it certainly does allow for orderly development of the land. There are some spaces that are left open. There are some spaces where limited development will occur. This is to, again, protect the landscape, protect the town services from having an undue burden, and it protects the abutters in that they'd be able to retain their residential neighborhood. Also, there's a monetary gift from Gordon Conwell, which over time will amount to $1.1 million, with the possibility of more mitigation I believe this is a strong win-win for the town and for Gordon Conwell. And I urge you to listen very carefully to the rest of the presentations, and hopefully we'll vote in support of this. Thank you.
All right. We thank Rosie for her hours of countless volunteer time she spent to negotiate this agreement. But I just want to just list the items very quickly, right? The most important thing it does is it maintains Gordon Conwell as our neighbor and friend, for we hope for years to come. It's very, very limited development while maintaining open space. We eliminate the ability to develop more single-family lots on the hill. We immediately increase our affordable housing stock without building any more units. The town gets $500,000 up front and up to $1 million, over $1 million later. And most importantly, which Rosie did not mention that presentation, was we restore tax revenue on this property that we haven't seen in over 50 years. So this is not a compromise of convenience. This is a commitment to our community. So please vote yes on this. Thank you.
Okay, before we get to discussion, I'm sorry, don't want to leave out the FinCom by all means.
John McGrath, FinCom. Just a few comments, and I will not repeat some of the material that's already been presented. FinCom took a step back, tried to digest everything that you heard tonight, as well as attending additional meetings. Takeaway for us is that this is a thoughtful, structured, negotiated approach to the future of the campus. For years, we've been discussing trying to increase the revenue stream and the tax base in town. So this definitely achieves that. And the beauty of what's happened is the taxpayers, the abutters, and the seminary have all had a chance to participate in this. So I think that's a really, really good thing. Last week, Jane Dooley, who's the town assessor, went through a process to estimate the taxable value of the property, and she came up with a figure of $35 million, which would equate to about $500,000 of annual revenue, which would be $10 million over a 20-year period. The FinCom had estimated a lower number, but Jane knows what she's doing, and I think $500,000 is the number that I'd like you to keep in the back of your mind here. Someone said to me the other day, geez, John, $500,000, is it really worth it? Well, $10 million over 20 years, this revenue stream would start immediately if a sale was consummated in January. It would equate to building $24.5 million. And that would take quite a while. So $500,000 would start immediately. And as you heard, upon the sale of the property, the first set of payments would come to the town, $400,000. So that's the revenue side. It's a lot of money annually. To make some sense out of it, it would cover the cost of 7 police cruisers. So just to try to get your head around what's $500,000 a year. So that's a big deal. It is substantial. Let's talk about the cost side. Folks have asked me many times over the years, how do you make sense of adding students to the school district? You can throw a lot of numbers around, and we actually provide a grid that allowed you to have conversations with your friends and neighbors. We understand that there are already 40 students enrolled in the Hamilton Wenham School District from that reside at the seminary. I was told by members of the seminary that the 209 units are already at a 75% occupancy. So fair number of people already reside there, and there are 40 students. I drove up there on Saturday. I did see quite a few kids running around, even though it was pretty cold. But the question is, what if another, let's just make it up, what if another 50 students moved in and started to go to the school? How much would that cost the school? So here's how I've always explained it. Say next Monday, 5 new students showed up at Winthrop School. What would we do? Well, we'd put them in empty seats in classrooms. The next Monday, what if another 5 showed up? Well, in empty seats in classrooms. The way to understand the incremental cost of the school has to do with at what point do you need to add another teacher or another teaching assistant. So if we added 50 students over 3, 4, 5, 10 months, the school district probably would have to add 1, 2, or 3 teachers. Let's call that cost $250,000. All right. So the way to think about adding students to the school is really incrementally. How would the school district respond to 5 new students, 10 new students, 20 new students? We wouldn't have to go out and build a new school, all right, for 50 students. So the way we look at it is we might have to add some teachers, but I'm guessing that there's a fair amount of seating capacity already in empty rooms, and the cost would probably be less than $250,000. So that's a sort of a mental model that you can walk away with to say, hey, help me think about adding students to the school and how much it would cost. All right. In the material that we've distributed publicly, we've given you some charts and some graphs on how to think about it. If you want to do some high-end math, you could create a scenario that says, oh, it's $1 million. There's no way adding 50 students will cost it down $1 million. All right. So I just wanted to try to get that out there and dispel some of the information relative to adding students to the school. Obviously, more students cost more to educate than less students. All right. And let me make one final point. I think the most important thing that the planning board did is they reduced risk for the town. All right. Without a doubt, it's the most important thing they did. And what do I mean by that? By eliminating the risk of a unwelcomed 40B development, they've removed significant risk to the town of Gordon walking away tonight and selling land or allowing a 40B development to happen up there, which could yield hundreds of more students and a lot of unwelcome sort of development. So I think the most important thing, and we need to thank the planning board for the diligence, is the amount of risk that they have removed from a unwelcome 40B development. So the FinCom urges a yes vote on this. We will add significant revenue, and the door is now open to a thoughtful, structured approach to what happens up on that campus. And the beauty of it is I can continue to go up there on Saturday morning and have my cup of coffee and walk the grounds and not see a really unsightly and disappointing set of developments. So that's where we came out on this whole conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I open up the floor to questions and comments, the representative of the seminary want to say a few words.
I'm Marlon Walters, a lifelong resident of Hamilton from Veranda Circle. I represent the cemetery, which does allow me to paraphrase Twain, which is that the record of report of its demise is exaggerated, but in great part because of what you're being asked to do tonight. The intention is for the seminary to stay. It's been there for 55 years, and we hope that it'll be there for another 55 years. The students will continue to live in the apartments and use those, but there'll be some additional people there as well, and so we're grateful for that. There'll be affordable units for folks around that work in town that are needed. So we're really privileged to be part of this process. We would add our thanks to the planning board, to the select board. We're really sad that Rosie isn't here. She gave us a real run for the money and extracted a lot of things out of us. I think I lost every single battle with her. But we're really grateful for your support tonight. I will be here if there are any questions that come up. In the interest of time, I'll take my seat now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we'll open it to questions or comments from the public. 3-minute limit on your comments, please.
Maybe I'll talk from over here. Mark Johnson, 6 Patton Drive. I'm in favor of this bylaw. I think Marnie underestimated the number of years that we've been working on this. We've had planning boards and select boards work on this in different variations for the last 20 years. The cost, the benefits, the debate of what the value of the property is and the value of the seminary has been great. What this planning board did, and I'm a frequent critic of the planning board, was a phenomenal job of pulling it together and making something comprehensive. As much as I can find some spots where I would do things differently, it was a very complicated Rubik's Cube to pull together, and they did a great job, and I urge the community to support the bylaw.
Before you step away, I forgot if you'd identify yourself. And
Mark Johnson, 6 Patton Drive.
I'm really losing it. Okay, next speaker, please. And if you have a question or comment, please try to be in line so we can move this along. Thank you.
Jamie Knutson, 14 Elliott Street. Speaking as the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust, who's taken a vote to recommend favorable action on the Article 2512 4-1. The proposed overlay district provides many benefits to all residents of our town, especially the expansion of affordable housing opportunities. Speaking for the trust, we strongly recommend that you vote in favor of this article for a few reasons. Currently, the apartment buildings may only be rented to those affiliated with the seminary. Approving this article will allow the conversion of the existing underutilized apartments to become rental units available to the general public, and at least 25% of the apartments are set aside as affordable housing units available to individuals and families whose income is up to 80% of the area median income. Reason number 2, the addition of the apartment units will help fill a critical need for more affordable housing options in Hamilton, including for seniors and families. Since these units already exist, the opportunities will be afforded with minimal impacts to the natural environment, existing town infrastructure, and the abutting property owners, particularly in comparison to new developments. Third reason, upon the finalization of this article and the completion of the planned purchase between the seminary and the purchaser of the apartments, the 25% of the apartments set aside as affordable housing will become eligible for addition to the Hamilton subsidized housing inventory. And this additional loan will allow the town to claim some safe harbor status designation protection against sort of the unfriendly 40B that other people have mentioned already, all right? Which will allow us to be, the town of Hamilton, to be more proactive in planning affordable housing opportunities instead of reactive and vulnerable to poorly conceived developments permitted through the state's 40B process. Reason number 4, there's potential that more than just the 25% will be added to the subsidized housing inventory, which would, if that occurs, will put us over the 10% threshold. To summarize, by voting in favor of this article, you will take advantage of the rare opportunity to provide valuable, affordable housing opportunities for yourself and our town while avoiding the typical environmental, societal, and infrastructure issues that these projects sometimes involve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Keith Doyle, Lee Park, South Hamilton. I'm speaking in support of Article 4, the Browns Hill Overlay District. Mr. Moderator, I would like to say that I see this zoning proposal as being very beneficial for the town of Hamilton. The zoning would enable Hamilton to add more affordable housing units, as has been mentioned quite a bit tonight, which would count towards the state's subsidized housing inventory, moving us a lot closer to the state's 10% 40B requirement, if not pushing it over, as we heard. It would do this without requiring any new construction. This is, as was said, a very unique opportunity, and it reduces the risk of any unfriendly or contentious 40B project like the Bruni project or others, particularly in this special area of town where Gordon Conwell is located. The current occupancy of the apartments is at 70%. That will remain as is with the current tenants. The remaining 30% of apartments are by the vast majority single-room apartments, not suitable for families. So any additional cost burden on the school system would be minimal. And it is my understanding, I'm not 100% sure of this, but it's my understanding that it's important to remember that the presence of Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary children of different ethnic backgrounds helps our schools meet quota levels, such that the schools receive corresponding funding that would otherwise not be received. This zoning proposal reflects not only months, but years of input from neighbors, from the seminary, abutters, and townspeople. It reflects everyone's voice, and as such, it preserves the small town character that matters so much to Hamilton residents. This zoning proposal would generate, as was mentioned, about $500,000 in new taxable revenue that would go directly into Hamilton's stabilization funds, which would help strengthen our finances and reduce pressure on taxpayers for future capital projects. The town would also benefit from the voluntary $1.1 million pledge, as was mentioned, from Gordon Conwell and the developer if this zoning passes. Lastly, the FinCom, along with the Planning Board, unanimously support this article and the Select Board, as was done tonight, after a significant amount of work and analysis. And this gives us all increased confidence in the quality and thoroughness of this proposal. There are many additional reasons to support this article. In short, this is a unique opportunity to grow our tax base, reduce our 40B vulnerability, and strengthen Hamilton's finances while adding no new construction at all. So I encourage the town to take this opportunity, once-in-a-life opportunity, and to vote yes on Article 4. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. Bill Spencer, 10 Maple Street, South Hamilton. I want to say I love this town. I really do. I love my neighbors. I love the police here. They kept me alive 30 years ago. And I love this form of government. It was new for me when we came 42 years ago. I've lived here for 42 years now. I'm not leaving. I love this town, so I'm not kidding. The longest place I've lived. I think the women and the men on these boards, FinCom and the Planning Board and the Select Board, they're excellent, absolutely excellent. I've been going to all these meetings, I've been listening, reading all this material. I'm really impressed. It's wonderfully put together. And what I want to do, what I can contribute to this, is I wanted to visit some of the questions that were raised in the past and do it from a more personal dimension, and in this way. First, with the children of seminarians in our schools. Now, we've talked to and I think John McGrath's presentation was very helpful on that. We've talked about the cost mainly. I want to say this. When I was in school, in a huge school, in a city area, we had 2 children from outside our country with hundreds of students. Most of our clientele was born, our students were born right in the town, right in the city. And this was what we had. We had a girl from the Ukraine, we had a boy from Germany, that was it. Well, in those days, it was insular, but that's how we lived. Now, everything's different. We live in a global age, and just having a pen pal on Zoom, which is good, and a lot of videos that can tell you about other countries, helpful, but inadequate. When you have the possibility to have our children prepare with actually having students from Africa and Brazil and Myanmar, and I'm naming students that are at the seminary already and have families. So we actually would raise consciousness of both those students, of what Americans are like, and of our students, of what people from other countries are like. So it's just a wonderful thing to have. I also listened carefully to the abutters. I think that their questions are valuable and they're important, and I'm impressed with the way that all these committees, even in the handouts we had tonight, are concerned about that, and they want to keep everybody happy. And I think that's the way it should be. Now, about the $1 million. I know people have questioned if 1.1 million is much from the seminary. Now, this may sound negligible, but look at our local map. It's a shocker. Hamilton's residential district and business district is a little tiny corner in the right-hand part of the map. The rest of it's the Great Wenham Swamp. You look at the demarcation, and that's what we have to work with. Population has actually decreased in the 42 years that we've been here. I think that it's a lot of money when you think of how many of us can shoulder that in our taxes. Seminary has always served the town. In the boom years, regular donations were flowing in, and seminary has always been supportive. In addition, many of the seminarians have professional backgrounds. And so I helped out in the school system because I had a child in there. And we would have seminary teachers who came, often spouses, would come and actually work in the schools.
Your 3 minutes is up, sir.
Okay, so I say vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Deb Safford. So I'm in support of this also. I just had a question. We've been talking about it as if it's a done deal, and it's not. I think that this vote has to happen, and then it can close. So I'm just wondering if there's a close date that's projected, and when will we actually know that we're out of the 40B woods? And if this deal was to fall down for some reason, hopefully it won't, do you have other buyers so that we would, when can we be out of this 40B threat is kind of the question, if you guys can disclose any of that information. And then I hope we can vote. Thank you.
As you might imagine, the goal is to close as soon as we can. There are some additional due diligence matters for the buyer to do, and this permitting is, of course, necessary. So this then also goes to the Attorney General so that for approval. But the goal is to get it closed as soon as we can.
As far as the 40B question, the town manager and I have had discussions with the state. The state would have to approve adding these units to the subsidized housing inventory. They've indicated that they're supportive of the idea and that other towns have done this process, but they did tell us they wouldn't start reviewing it until the zoning passed. So this is sort of the first step. It has to go through the state process, and then we would attack that as soon as possible.
join in the positivity. I'm Valerie Peck. We're at 37 Miles River Road in South Hamilton. We have the distinction of being the single largest abutter to the seminary, over 800 feet. That's roughly 3 football fields length. That's a boundary comprised of just a small stone wall. In fact, if I were to go out my back door and throw one of those like golf frisbees, I'd probably hit the president's window at the retreat house. So needless to say, we've been extremely involved and aware of this process the entire time. We've attended every single meeting, asked questions, and read documents. And I think that the zoning overlay that we're voting on tonight has been created by a very qualified and thoughtful planning board. It is a positive collaboration between the town, the seminary, and the abutters. It has been highly negotiated over 3 years, and it really reflects and seeks to optimize all those involved. So being a really close neighbor to the seminary, I would like to say without reservation that we should vote yes for this tonight. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Please be at the microphone so we move things along.
My name is David Sullivan from Allen Road. And mine is actually more of a question on, we've referred to a development agreement that is going to prevent anybody from not tying into the wastewater treatment. And but has that agreement been drafted in any form? Because we have an overlay district. If we approve an overlay district, the underlying district's still there. And if that agreement isn't signed, the school, if it wanted to, could sell the lots out for any other purpose, as long as it complied with existing zoning.
Anybody want to take that question?
The development agreement has been, my understanding is it's been signed by the select board in Gordon Conwell. It's dependent on the zoning being passed, so it comes into activation if the zoning passes, but the development agreement has already been signed by both parties.
Any other questions or comments?
And just the question about the overlay district, this overlay district would replace the underlying zoning on the Gordon Conwell campus. So that underlying R1B zoning would no longer apply to the campus.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I think we'll go to a vote. This requires a 2/3 vote. We've been lucky so far, so let's go. Let's go with the vote. I'll start with a voice vote. All those in favor of Article 4-1, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it by a 2/3 vote, and I so declare. I will accept a motion to dissolve. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?